Planet of the Apes, which is one of Hollywood's longest running franchises consisting of 10 feature films, 2 TV shows, 3 video games, and dozens of novels, has for the most part always stuck to telling long-running stories that all connect closely to one another. Unlike some other big-name IPs out there, Apes has never stuck its toe into the world of spin-offs or prequels, films that focus on supporting characters we already know, or backstory to things of which we've already seen the end result. While it's not likely we'll see it happen in the immediate future, as the Kingdom trilogy led by Noah is only just getting started, could we eventually see some smaller one-off films that focus on other characters spun off from the main saga of Planet of the Apes? I'm here to break it all down. If you like what I do here and want to show your support, be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. Enjoy the video. And welcome to Ape Nation, your #1 source for all things Planet of the Apes on YouTube. My name is Josh, and today I want to talk about some of the possibilities of potential Planet of the Apes spin-off films we could end up seeing on screen one day, and whether or not I think any of them could ever actually happen. Now, just to make a clear distinction, when I say spin-off, I am specifically talking about character spin-offs. So not a one-off original story about a new character or some unexplored part of the Planet of the Apes universe that loosely ties into Caesar or someone else we know. I mean a character who was introduced in one of the main timeline Planet of the Apes movies, whether it be the original series or the modern films, and giving them their own movie. Not a TV show, a movie. There are a handful of characters that I would love to see get their own spin-off and that I think would be able to successfully lead their own film. There are also a lot that I wouldn't necessarily be as excited about and don't think would work. While this isn't necessarily a top 5 or any kind of list of the exact characters I want to see get their own movie, these are the ones that came to the top of my mind when going over this question. Now, I will say the ones I thought of, for the most part, would all have to be prequels, but there is one that could actually move the story forward, and that's the one I wanted to start with. And that would be Bad Ape. I think Bad Ape is kind of a perfect character to move forward post Caesar trilogy, but still being connected to the Caesar trilogy character that you could possibly have a spin-off of, outside of maybe Cornelius, but I think that's kind of a whole other conversation. But I think Cornelius would be more of a full-on just Planet of the Apes sequel or trilogy or series or whatever, whereas I think a Bad Ape movie would simply be a one-off Bad Ape movie. And I think the way you would approach this is kind of like a Godfather 2 style sequel / prequel. I think Bad Ape is easily the most evolved of the apes, at least in terms of speech, and he's also the most vulnerable in a way that would make him easiest to be the lead of a movie of all the apes that we got to know in those first 3 Caesar trilogy movies. A Bad Ape film could start years after Caesar's death, and it could focus on him growing into his new role among Caesar's apes. And like I was saying, with that sequel / prequel approach, you could have flashbacks throughout the movie that show his origin story and him losing his child, like we saw him talk about, and how we got to where we meet him in war.
You have a child?
One. The other was killed by human.
Soldier? I had child.
There's room for the character to evolve and have a whole arc over the course of a movie. So if you're gonna take any character from those first 3 movies and move things forward, I think Bad Ape is kind of the perfect choice to take that ball and roll with it. So that is why Bad Ape is the first character that I thought of that I think could make for a really great Planet of the Apes spinoff. The next character is from the original Planet of the Apes movie series, and that would be Dr. Zaius. I think you could make something really politically involved and intriguing, unlike any Planet of the Apes movie before. Of course, all the Planet of the Apes movies, to varying degrees, are very political and politically influenced, but I think this could be the most politically involved and quite literally exploring the politics of the characters within that world, and could take inspiration from something like All the King's Men, or even the Star Wars prequel trilogy. You could show his rise to power among the apes and flesh out his motivations behind keeping the truth about humans buried, and also has the potential to make Zaius an even more complex villain in than he already is and add to what we already know about him in a really meaningful way. So that is why I think giving Dr. Zaius a prequel movie would be a really great idea for a spin-off.
How can the appearance of one mutant send you into a panic?
Because you're not unique. There's the one you call Landon.
Oh, then you admit that...
I admit that where there's one mutant, there's probably another and another and another, a whole nest of them. Where is your nest, Taylor?
Next up, and this is probably going to be my most controversial pick, but it's from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and that would be the character of May. I think a movie solely focused on May before we meet her in Kingdom would be actually really cool, and it would be fascinating to see her during her time on her own prior to meeting Noah and learning how she survived for so long.
There are more like you.
There used to be more.
You hid the truth.
My mother taught me silence. For my safety.
It could also make for like a really fun action thriller chase type of movie with her constantly on the run with the apes after her. And you could almost make it like a more bare bones post-apocalyptic Born Identity or Enemy of the State kind of movie. Not exactly like those, but taking inspiration from those types of films. And I think in a way you would also be able to get this opportunity to justify her decisions in Kingdom more for the viewers who were turned off by what she did to Noah and his apes at the end of that film. So I think giving her her own prequel could actually be really good and beneficial to the Kingdom trilogy and to her as a character. So that is why I think a May spin-off film is something that I would be interested in seeing. And finally, the last suggestion that I have is a Zira and Cornelius prequel. I think there's multiple different directions you could go with this, and also I think each character could also carry their own spin-off film as well as being a joint pairing Cornelius and Zira film, but it's the two of them together that makes them as iconic as they are and works as well as they do, which is why I would prefer to see a Cornelius and Zira film together that focuses on the both of them. Of all the things you could do with this, one idea I did have is that it could be a story focused on the early days of their relationship and tell a real love story unlike anything we've ever seen in the franchise, which could be a turnoff for a lot of people, but it could also work. Or it could take place after they've already been together for a while and examine a marriage between two highly intelligent beings like a scientist and an archaeologist, and the challenges that that dynamic might bring. It would also give fans, especially old school fans, a chance to see two fan favorite characters again, even if they're played by two different actors, because of course both Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter are no longer with us, and I don't think anybody wants to see them try to do some weird deep fake CGI recreation of their voices or faces. I personally have no interest in seeing that. I'm someone who does not like seeing that kind of thing at all, so I would much prefer they just get different actors. And if their chemistry and love can be successfully recaptured on screen, it could give us another Planet of the Apes movie with more comedy in it, just like Escape did, which I think could be a nice change of pace considering how dark the franchise has remained post Escape from the Planet of the Apes. So that's why I think that Cornelius and Zira would make for a great spin-off film in the Planet of the Apes universe. So when it comes to the logistics of which timeline each of these could be made in, or whether or not to do the older characters with CGI or practical effects and all that kind of stuff, I'm not really concerned about that for now. These are just the characters that, at least right now, I think would make for some really interesting, unique, and exciting spin-off films. And I'm sure that some of you are yelling at me through the screen asking, what about Maurice? What about Rocket or Koba or any of the other beloved characters? And for me, while I love all of those characters as well as a handful of others, I'm just not convinced that they would be the best candidates for the protagonist of an entire feature film. I could be totally off and I'd be happy to be proven wrong. For now though, it's the ones that I listed in this video that off the top of my head would get me the most excited to go and see. As for whether or not I think we'll ever actually see any of these movies or any other spin-off films of different Planet of the Apes characters, is it really even possible that these kinds of films will happen one day? Unfortunately, I think the answer is no. While I would be more than happy to watch a standalone movie about Dr. Zaius or Bad Ape, and while I'm sure many of you would be too, the reality is that the general audience would probably not be as interested. While the Planet of the Apes films generally do well financially, they've never been massive at the box office in a way that other franchises franchises have been, and as much as I wish they did, they are also nowhere as near a part of the pop culture conversation as regularly as they are for us fans. It is, after all, called the movie business, and sadly, those things are what contribute heavily to whether or not a franchise is able to expand beyond its core story. If the interest and numbers aren't there to justify it, especially in the Hollywood climate of today, it's just not gonna happen. Maybe if there was a way to get budgets down significantly, but you'd have to be talking like half of what Kingdom was made for, and that was on the lower end of what modern blockbusters are made for today. Still, I'd be more than up for seeing a handful of different characters get the spin-off treatment on the big screen, regardless of the likelihood, but I want to know what you guys think. Do you like my picks for potential Planet of the Apes spin-off movies? Are there any that you don't like? And who are some of the characters from the franchise that you think would be able to lead their own movie? I want to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out today's video here on Ape Nation. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. I'll catch you in the next one, so until then, goodbye.